are Bitcoin or Total3 or Total3 supporting my success or failure? If you're trading alts, then Total3 matters, right? If you're just trading Bitcoin, obviously it wouldn't matter. But I for that reason added this onto the list. So Total3, this just happens to kind of be like a bit of my trend chart. I think all these are accurate. Yep. Just wanted to double check the time frames. So right now, I would have to kind of answer a bit cautiously. It's probably a bit ranging depending on, what time frame you look at. This is still orange, so technically we're still a bit bullish. The clear trend over a 1 year period is definitely bullish, but do we have room in this channel to revert back, to the mean and even overcorrect? Absolutely. Are we actually in the midst of a bit of a correction here? Yes, absolutely. You can see this channel break. You can see we're clearly in a red volatility cloud space. So conditions are a bit more conducive for a bit of a flattening of price action. And it's just saying that this channel that we're seeing right now used to be kind of like this, right? And it's actually kind of fallen. So the price action is kind of like flattened, or in this case, the market cap for Total3 has kind of flattened. So in this case, if I was going to trade something, I would have to ask myself, are conditions conducive? In my opinion, I would say big picture, Total3 is not really helping me or hurting me. If I'm doing a larger term trade, I would want to look at something like the weekly. If I'm doing some sort of very small time frame trade, then I'd want to look at something like the 4-hour and say, well, right now conditions are kind of conducive to ranging, or if anything, we're in a red cloud, so they might be supporting a short, right? On the 4-hour and on the 6-hour and on the 1 day, conditions are really conducive to a short. Those candles are red. 6-hour is a little bit green. There's no orange and there's no blue. There's no cyan. There's no yellow. So I would say ranging to short, right? So if I'm going to do a short, conditions are probably a little bit conducive right now. And then you want to look at kind of the same thing on Bitcoin and ask yourself, is Bitcoin conducive to my trade, right? And so if I look at Bitcoin, I have to ask myself the same question. I would say, well, right now, it looks like it's conducive to long overall on the weekly time frame. Being that it's orange, you can kind of see that, right? Being that it's orange on the 4-hour and it's kind of like in a green volatility cloud space, I would say it's conducive to a long. It's definitely not going to hurt any longs that I have right now. Same thing here. We can look at the weighted label, right? 82%, it just shifted. In fact, I just saw this go yellow. So these are some things, it's nice to have yellow on the 1 day if I'm entering a long on any kind of altcoin, right? I have orange here on the 4-hour, and so I think it looks like we're in a moment of up pressure. Do I expect anything, radical out of it? Not yet, but I would say overall, this says conditions are probably a little more conducive to a long, or at least they're not going to affect any longs negatively, right? If I enter a long on alts in these conditions, even if Bitcoin doesn't move, it doesn't explode, I know that these conditions are the type of conditions that are not going to adversely affect my long. If anything, they're going to probably help my long. So it's kind of an interesting place to be when we look at Total3 and we look at Bitcoin. And so you might look at Bitcoin dominance and you might decide, is Bitcoin dominance helping or hurting? Or is the DXY helping or hurting? But DXY, in my opinion, the dollar index has a bit of a lagging effect. So to me, I use it on much larger time frames, like the 1 week or the 2 week, maybe the 4 week. So I want to know, is it helping conditions for a bull cycle, or is it doing something that might cause, supportive conditions for bearish price action, for risk on assets, whether that's crypto or whether that is the S&P 500 or stocks, I think it gets a little more technical. So that's why I do not have the DXY on there. And because I see it as having a bit of a lagging effect, mostly being useful on much larger time frames. So if you're trading anything short term or multi-day, it's up to you if you want to use that. So I think this is useful. That is how that's relevant, right? So Bitcoin and Total3, do they support my success or failure? You just want to make sure that at a minimum, Bitcoin or Total3 are not supporting outright your failure, right? Ideally, they're supporting your success. All right.